right? You ask them, do you remember your third dunk? You know, they don't. It's like you remember your first girlfriend. My first girlfriend was Pam Hubbard. My last girlfriend was Karelian. I married her. You know, you know what I mean? Like you remember your first and your last. So your first, you remember. And so that I like first.
How's this team measured up to the expectations you had going into the season?
We surpassed the expectations that I had going, and not just what took place on the court. Just the chemistry that they have off the court, the way they really, really care about each other. Their care factor, their willingness to be coached, and wanting to be coached, and so yeah, it's surpassed it.
So I'm sure after you won Coach of the Year yesterday, you didn't go around pounding your chest saying that's all me. As a coach, who do you thank most when you win that kind of award?
Well, first of all, it's an honor that your peers would vote you that, because those guys know what we go through day in and day out with the team and stuff. So just being a coach, so that's an honor. But it starts with your staff and your players. Like we had 2 guys first team all Big 12, and if Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel, and the rest of the guys don't play to that level, then there's no recognition for anybody. So winning brings all those things. So you thank your players. I got a terrific staff, man, and they're just incredible. But we got a group of GAs that spend a ton of hours in the gym with our guys to help them get better, and time at their apartments, and just all the little things that go into allowing a program to be great, and so that you can just focus on basketball. And then we have these terrific wives who allow us to be away from home and spend all this time up at the office, and then they cook meals for these guys and do family dinners on Sundays, just their own personal time where they could be with their husbands and their kids, but they choose to spend more time with these guys to build this chemistry that you guys see. So there's just so many people, and I text Scott and I just thanked him, because this doesn't happen without him allowing me to grow as a coach under him and in that program. And we've had multiple guys from Baylor who are coaches. Paul Mills won Coach of the Year in the Summit League. Grant McCaslin's going to be right there in I think that's Conference USA. And he's won it before. So there's something that Scott Drew does within his program that builds guys and helps prepare them to be able to be successful when they get their own jobs. So there's just a ton of guys, but people that you'd have to thank. But I'm just really thankful that God gave me this opportunity, and give me a chance to lead my own program and it be this spot.
Do you think winning the tournament in the Grand Canyon kind of validated what you guys were doing and helped along the way too with that early success?
I hadn't really thought about it that way. What I remember about the Grand Caymans is that we had an overtime game and a 1-possession game, and I think we developed faith in each other during that time. Like, we as a staff developed faith in them in those moments to not overcoach and call too many timeouts, and allow them to play, and they developed faith in us that when we did call a timeout, we did say run something, that we were going to put them in the right position to make plays. And so I think and then we saw how focused they could be, the 3 days being focused, knowing that you had an island and water and everything else there, but we just asked them, hey man, let's just stay focused and do what we got to do, and the guys did. And so I felt we grew in those areas.
Can you explain if there's been anything over the course of the season to really kind of show Naquan's progression and his understanding of basketball?
Well, I think the last few games, you see him making a conscious effort to not pick up as many tic-tac fouls, which allows him to be on the floor more. I think after the Caymans, because he had a really good game. I think it was the first game of the Caymans, and because of his energy level, and then his focus went trying to do other things rather than be the energy guy that he needs to be, and it took away from what he does best, and he struggled there for a little while. and then all of a sudden he got back to it. So him understanding himself and what makes him a good player, and then what will allow him to help us win games. I feel like those are the two things, maybe areas that he's grown.
And how have you seen him maybe impact games when he's not making shots or not finding high production levels of scoring?
He keeps the ball alive, with his offensively, on the offensive rebounding end, he has a way, because of his length and his speed and athleticism, he can keep things alive. When he doesn't get it, somebody else is going to get it. Just his activity level makes teams have to not just account for him with one guy, but sometimes with two. And when that happens, it opens up something for somebody else. And then his speed up and down the floor. So all those things that have nothing to do with having the ball in your hands, those are ways he can impact winning. And when he does that, then the other part becomes easy for him.
Coach, go ahead.
Looking back, what would be the biggest change you think you had to make going from assistant to head coach?
Ooh. I guess just how much information you're getting from everywhere. And I guess I'll go back, our first 3 months on the job, there were so many things that needed to be done. And for everyone that was on staff, whatever information they were given to me, it was really important to them. So it was important. His stuff was a sense of urgency, and his stuff was a sense of, and for every one of it was a sense of urgency and very important to you. And I could only do one at a time. And I had to figure out, okay, what was the most important thing at that time to get done, and then put it in order of priority, and then take care of it. And sometimes it meant something that was really important to you got put third or fourth on the list, and then to manage people in that area. So having to manage all the information and figure out what's the next most important thing for us to do, that was probably the most difficult thing.
Coach, you're into the postseason now. At most, you got 9 games. And at Baylor, you've been to the last game and won that game. What have you learned about how to handle your team maybe differently in the postseason than the chunk of the regular season?
Well, I don't know if it's handled differently, but the thing that allowed us, we spent 30 days in the bubble, right? And if you don't like each other, right, nobody wants to spend that amount of time together. And that team, we really liked each other. I mean, we loved being around. We played games. It was fun all to be around them. And I feel the same way about these guys. Like, we could be in a bubble for 30 days and we'll be just fine. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna have more fun than everybody else, right? Because we're just gonna come up with stuff that are really cool to do. And so, as long as your team doesn't get tired of winning, you got a chance. Now, the hardest thing to do is to win the first game. That's the hardest thing. You gotta, because everyone prepares for it. Everybody knows who they're going to play, and they have a number of days to prepare for that. So we're not going to change much of what we do. The media timeouts are longer, so guys may not need as much of a break. But when you've already trimmed your rotation down some, there's going to be one more player that might be a little more frustrated than before. But everybody just wants to win at that point in time, so nobody's really that upset. That kind of thing.
You've said a couple times that the first game of the tournament's the hardest to win. Obviously, you just said you get a lot of time to prepare for the first game. But why is it maybe easier, I guess, to win the second, third, fourth game with less preparation?
Well, both teams have less preparation. I don't think that it's necessarily easier. It just doesn't get harder, because we're both under the same time constraint.
How much are you just going to play then, instead of maybe scouting and practicing and preparing? How much of it turns into just go play and do what we do?
Well, your habits. It boils down to your habits. Let's go be who we are. And there are one or two things we're going to try and take away from another team once in the NCAA tournament. In the Big 12, everybody knows each other. It's going to be a grind. But in the NCAA tournament, just one or two things you can take away from somebody, but it's more about being yourself.